Hi, it's me, Scott Speck, Artistic Director of the Chicago Philharmonic, here with another Pitching In video. You remember that we talked about how to give an upbeat to the orchestra in such a way that people will want to inhale with you and play together. Then we talked about tempos, both the Italian designations, things like allegro and vivace and andante, andantino, largo, larghetto, lento, etc., and also metronome markings. Today I thought I would show you a couple of other things. Remember I showed you this score in a previous video. And you remember that the score is divided up into measures. This shows how every orchestra musician is playing at the same time. And you can see these vertical lines that go from top to bottom. Each vertical line here is what we would call, in the biz, a downbeat. What does that mean? Once you've given the upbeat, and then you're showing when to play, or when to sing if it's a chorus, that gesture, the one that goes from top to bottom, that gesture indicates the beginning of a measure of music. If a conductor is clear, every time you see the conductor do that, they're showing you the beginning of the next measure and thereby showing the passage of time. I showed you how you could beat in different tempos in a previous video. What I didn't mention is that conductors have patterns in order to not only show you the tempo that's being indicated to the orchestra, but also to show you where within each measure we are at any given moment. So if this is the downbeat, the one that goes vertically from top to bottom, every other gesture within the measure has to be some other direction other than up and down. So very often, using the baton, it'll be something like this. Let's say for 4 beats per measure, down, in, out, up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a universal language. All the musicians know that. Like if I got in front of any orchestra in the world and I conducted down, in, out, up, they would know that that means 1, 2, 3, 4. They would know that's the tempo. They would know where they are in the measure at any point. And it would be absolutely universal. Let's say it's in 3/4 time, which means there are 3 beats to the bar. That means every 3 beats you're going to give a downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 1. So where does the 2 go? In this case, the 2 goes out. It's down, out, up. Down, out, up. What if you're conducting a march? Remember I sang a little bit of Stars and Stripes Forever last time. Bum, bum, ba-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Marches are in 2 beats to the bar because we have 2 feet, for that simple reason. And it couldn't be simpler to conduct it. You just go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So those are the basic beat patterns in order to show not only the tempo, but where you are located at any point in the music. We talked about tempo. One thing we haven't yet talked about is the concept of dynamics. Dynamics means, in the most basic sense, for an elementary student, you would say dynamics are a measure of how loud or how soft the music is. And that's actually true, but there's a lot more to it than that, because there are all kinds of gradations of feeling that are more than just soft to loud. But let's start with the Italian words for soft and loud, and I should actually say that there is no Italian word that we use for loud. The word forte means strong, and the extreme version of that is fortissimo. Now, in music, piano is written P, forte is written F, fortissimo is written FF, and fortissimo FFF. How many Fs could you have? I don't know. I've seen up to 4 in Tchaikovsky, and I've seen 6 Ps. So I guess it depends how insistent the composer is on making sure they get their way. Verdi, for example, was used to orchestras and choruses that were not the most sensitive, and so sometimes he would write 5 or 6 Ps just so that he could get 1 P. You know what I mean? Whereas Beethoven maybe would have written 1 P. He never really went far above 2 Fs, didn't go far below 2 Ps, very rarely. But the FF in Beethoven is equally as powerful as the FFFF in Tchaikovsky. So it's a matter of taste from the composers. But that's piano all the way up to fortissimo. In between, you have mezzo piano, which means half soft, and mezzo forte, which means half strong. If you're going to be beating this as a conductor, this is a gross oversimplification, but it is largely true that a small gesture helps give the feel of something soft, whereas a loud and especially powerful gesture gives you, or I should say a big gesture gives you more of a forte feel. That's not 100% of the time. Certainly you could give a big gesture that's very soft or a small gesture that's very strong, right? But oversimplifying, because it's such a complex discipline, conducting is, oversimplifying, if you are conducting and you learn how to make your gestures from small to large, you can indicate a change in dynamics that's very important in the music. And a change in dynamics from small to large is called crescendo, which simply means growing. Same root as crescent moon, it's just growing. And the opposite of that is either called a decrescendo or diminuendo, which means diminishing. So let me show you now, beating in 4/4 time, going from pianissimo to fortissimo in the simplest possible way. It would be like this. First I breathe, small, bigger, 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 and so big that it goes outside the frame. Yeah, and then a diminuendo would be the opposite of that. So you start strongly, and then you make the gestures ever so gradually smaller until at the end it's absolutely tiny. At the same time, you can use the other hand to show this, which means growing, or this, which means quieter. And everyone knows what this means. So here, for example, using the hands independently, growing, and then shrinking, like this. And then I'm going to show you just one more thing, and that's all important. That's how to help the orchestra cut off a note together. Because everyone's playing at the same time, how do they know when to stop? If you watch a quartet, and you'll see maybe the first violinist will do something like this to show that everyone should stop their bow at this point. Something similar happens with the baton. I'm conducting along, holding a note, and then I make a circle with my hand, like this. The circle starts down here, it goes around to the outside, and then out. And that's the moment of cutting, just like that. So now, in theory, you know how to bring in an orchestra, you know how to give a downbeat, you know how to indicate tempo, you can also show what part of the measure we are in at any point, right? And you can show dynamics, from soft to loud and loud to soft. So now, to a certain extent, you can do a conductor's job. And if you have more questions, why don't you leave some comments? Because I love answering questions, especially if it's something that people really want to know. I'm also very, very much looking forward to the time when we, the Chicago Philharmonic, and I, and you, can safely be together in one place, and we can show you what we love to do, what we've all studied so hard to do, and what we love so much, which is to make live music. All right, until next week, everybody, have a great, great week. Stay healthy, and as always, get some great music in your life. Take care.